There's a certain kind of calm that only exists when everyone else is planning. Not the calm of apathy, not the kind that feels empty, but the calm that feels like clarity. It's that feeling when the world erupts into promises and proclamations, vision boards and gym memberships, and you simply don't. You watch the frenzy with quiet understanding. It's not laziness, it's wisdom. Most people don't understand that. They'll look at someone who doesn't make resolutions and assume they lack ambition, discipline, maybe even hope for the future. But for some people, refusing to make resolutions isn't giving up on growth. It's the one way they can actually pursue it. Because out there, in the noise of New Year's pressure, arbitrary deadlines, and performative self-improvement, they lose themselves. Without resolutions, they find who they are again. Maybe it started when they were younger. The failed promises, the broken commitments, the weight of expectations. For some, those moments felt like tiny defeats. You had to declare transformation to be taken seriously, promise change to seem motivated, and smile wider when someone asked about your goals. So they built a different approach instead, an approach that was gentler, steadier, more forgiving. That's when they realized resolutions weren't the only path, they were just the loudest one. Psychologists say that people who don't make New Year's resolutions often have a deeper understanding of behavioral change. They know that transformation doesn't wait for January 1st. That means their approach to growth is more organic. Forced declarations, public promises, calendar-based commitments. It can feel like a performance. So the quiet refusal isn't resistance, it's realism. It's the psyche saying, I change when I'm ready, not when the calendar demands it. But let's be honest, it's not just about rejecting arbitrary timelines. There's something deeper, something almost philosophical about it. The new year is the only time when we're expected to suddenly become someone else, the productive version of us, the one that wakes up at 5 a.m., the one that knows exactly what they want, how to get it, when to start. That pressure can finally dissolve when you choose a different path. And what's left? The steady, authentic version, the one that doesn't need a fresh start to keep moving forward. It's strange, isn't it? How a person can be working on themselves all year and still feel judged for not having resolutions. But the moment they release that expectation, sitting quietly with their own pace of change, they finally feel aligned with themselves. That's the quiet magic of continuity. It's not stagnation, it's sustainability. A relationship with growth that doesn't burn out by February. We often romanticize transformation in our culture. We celebrate those who are constantly reinventing, constantly declaring, constantly starting fresh. We treat gradual progress like it's invisible and steady effort like it's not enough. But there's a quiet power in people who know how to grow without announcing it, because they've learned that fulfillment isn't always found in declarations. Sometimes it's found in the doing. There's an old saying that goes, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. For people who don't make resolutions, now isn't January 1st. It's any moment they feel ready. Going without resolutions isn't procrastination. It's alignment. It's how they honor their own readiness, respect their own rhythm, and commit to what's real instead of what's expected. Think about it. When you're constantly declaring who you'll become, your identity starts to fragment. You become a projection of yourself for the future. But when you focus on who you are today, you're the only version that matters. Of course, there's a fine line between rejecting resolutions and avoiding growth. Even the most intentional souls need evolution. But here's the paradox. People who don't make resolutions often have more sustainable progress, not less. Because they don't waste energy on false starts. They change when it's meaningful, where action feels natural, when you can commit without the pressure of a countdown. It's transformation, not theater. When psychologists study goal setting, they find something fascinating. People who make gradual, self-initiated changes tend to maintain them longer than those who rely on external deadlines. It's not because they're more disciplined, it's because they're more honest. They work with their psychology instead of against it. They start when they're ready instead of when they're supposed to. In that authenticity, habits form, momentum builds, and real change quietly begins to stick. Think about the times you've made your biggest transformations. They probably didn't come because you wrote them down on January 1st or posted them on social media. They came when something inside you shifted, in the middle of a random Tuesday, late at night when you finally had enough, or during a quiet moment when clarity arrived uninvited. That's the hidden power of not making resolutions. It leaves space for organic change, the kind that emerges from readiness, not from obligation. But here's what's ironic. Many people who don't make resolutions carry a secret guilt about it. They feel like they're missing out, like growth is happening somewhere else and they're failing to keep up. Social media makes it worse. Endless posts of goals, intentions, and transformations make non-resolvers feel like they're doing something wrong. But the truth is, the highlight reel of other people's resolutions isn't the full story. Most fail by February. And for some people, real change just looks different. It looks like showing up without fanfare. There's something deeply human about needing to grow at your own pace, to start when you're ready, to change without ceremony. In ancient times, transformation was tied to seasons, to readiness, to internal shifts. Today, we've squeezed it into one arbitrary date. It's the same impulse, the need to evolve, but some people do it in silence, in small moments, or through choices no one else ever sees. The resolution is just the modern ritual, but it's not the only way. And here's the psychology behind it. When you make a public resolution, you're creating what scientists call a social contract. Your brain experiences a dopamine hit just from declaring the goal, which can actually reduce motivation to do the work. That's why announcing your plans sometimes makes you less likely to follow through. Your mind already feels rewarded. But when you change quietly, without the declaration, there's no premature satisfaction. The reward only comes from the doing. That's why silent growth often goes deeper. But not everyone understands this. Sometimes people will say things like, "You need to set goals," or "How will you grow without a plan?" What they don't realize is that not making resolutions doesn't mean doing nothing. Some of the most meaningful transformation happens without declaration. Reading, healing, building, becoming. These are all quiet revolutions happening without countdowns. And the people who don't make resolutions aren't necessarily avoiding change. They're choosing it differently. They're honoring their readiness, trusting their timing, and when they do transform, they bring depth instead of performance. There's also a psychological comfort in continuity. The brain loves consistency because it reduces anxiety. When you know you don't have to become someone new on January 1st, when growth feels ongoing rather than event-based, your mind relaxes. For someone who rejects resolutions, this continuity becomes sacred. It's not resistance, it's emotional integrity. Every small choice, every incremental shift, from deciding to walk more to finally setting a boundary, becomes a way of telling the nervous system, "You're already enough, we're just evolving." Yet in a world obsessed with fresh starts, that kind of steadiness feels rebellious. We're taught that to be valuable, we must constantly declare, constantly restart, constantly prove we're trying. But people who don't make resolutions quietly challenge that idea. They prove that growth doesn't always need a starting gun. Sometimes it comes from continuation, from being rooted enough to notice what already needs attention, from having the honesty to admit what you're actually ready for. And maybe that's why non-resolvers often have a realistic relationship with change. When you refuse to force transformation, you start to understand it. You see that growth isn't linear. You notice the patterns in your own behavior, the way change happens in waves, the way motivation ebbs and flows, the sound of your own inner voice when it says, "Not yet," or "Now." There's wisdom there, quiet, but undeniable. It's a slower kind of progress, one that doesn't need to be announced or celebrated. Some people will never understand that kind of patience. To them, growth without goals feels directionless, and change without declarations feels uncertain. But for those who reject resolutions, silence is not stagnation, it's strategy. It's the sound of finally trusting yourself. There's a beautiful paradox hidden inside people who don't make New Year's resolutions. They're often labeled as unmotivated or complacent, but the truth is, they take change too seriously to trivialize it. Every promise, every declaration, every false start, it all leaves a mark. And when the pressure gets too loud, their instinct isn't to perform growth, it's to protect their integrity. It's not fear of commitment, it's care for what's real. You can tell a lot about a person by the way they approach transformation. Some people's lives are full of fresh starts and bold declarations, journals filled with intentions, the air buzzing with excitement. Others prefer quiet momentum, small changes, the steady hum of daily choices. Each approach becomes a mirror of the person inside it, a behavioral manifestation of their relationship with themselves. The dramatic ones seek motivation, the steady ones build discipline, the quiet ones cultivate sustainability. And within those patterns, they create progress no one else ever sees. When psychologists study the link between goal setting and achievement, they find something profound. People who change without formal resolutions often report higher levels of self-trust, resilience, and long-term success, because continuity gives them the freedom to listen to their own readiness, unforced, unpressured, unjudged. When you're announcing goals all the time, your actions adapt. You start performing change, shaped by how others might perceive it. But when you grow quietly, your transformation unfolds in its native form, and that's where real evolution begins. Think of all the great transformations, breakthroughs, healings, and growth stories. Many of them happened without resolutions, not because people lacked intention, but because they needed space to change authentically, to evolve, to become without the weight of a countdown. There's truth in the idea that we need space of our own, metaphorically or literally, to understand who we're becoming. People who don't make resolutions have learned that external timelines don't define them. They don't need January 1st to feel motivated. They don't need public declarations to know they're growing. Because when you spend enough time with yourself, you stop performing change for others. You start building transformation that no one can rush. Still, rejecting resolutions can be confronting. When everyone else is planning, the choice to abstain grows louder, and sometimes that's uncomfortable. That's why not everyone can resist the pressure. The expectation starts to reflect back what they've been avoiding. But those who embrace their own timing learn something powerful. That growth isn't the presence of goals, it's the acceptance of readiness. They learn to honor their own pace, to watch the calendar pass without rushing. That's emotional maturity in its purest form. And this is what psychology tells us, that comfort with your own timeline is one of the strongest indicators of self-awareness. People who can grow without external prompts have a more stable sense of agency. They're less swayed by trends, less dependent on collective energy, and more guided by internal signals. Because when you've spent enough time in your own rhythm, you can hear the difference between pressure and readiness. That's how wisdom grows in quiet choices. Of course, it's not that people who don't make resolutions never want to change. They do, but their desire has nuance. It's not the rush of empty promises. It's the pull toward something authentic, not forced. They'd rather grow slowly than burn out quickly. That's not complacency, that's discernment. And when they do commit to change, they mean it deeply, quietly, completely, because they know the cost of false starts. They commit when it's real, transformation when it's ready, and trust slowly. And that's why their growth often lasts, because it's built on readiness, not noise. But there's another side to all this, one that's less talked about. Sometimes people avoid resolutions not because they're wise, but because they're weary of disappointing themselves, weary of the cycle of declaration and defeat. For them, not making resolutions is the one way they protect their hope. It's not avoidance, it's self-preservation. Psychologists call this resolution fatigue. It's what happens when you've failed too many times, when the thought of setting another goal brings dread instead of excitement, when the calendar flips and you feel the weight of starting over again. That's your psyche finally saying, I need a different approach. You've been forcing change for so long, declaring intentions, breaking promises, fighting your own resistance, and the moment you let go of resolutions, everything you've been holding releases. That's not failure, that's learning. People who don't make resolutions often live with a heightened sense of self-awareness. They know their patterns like a map. They notice when motivation is real versus when it's performative, small shifts in energy that most miss. It's a gift, but it's also humbling. So they wait to act until it feels true, and that waiting allows them to grow more authentically, steadily, and clearly. The more you study this, the more you realize not making resolutions isn't just about preference, it's a psychological orientation. Some people are wired for external milestones. They thrive on deadlines, declarations, fresh starts. Others are wired for internal readiness. They thrive on continuity, self-trust, and organic momentum. Neither is better. They're simply different ways of being human. But because society praises the New Year reset, the quieter types often feel like something's wrong with them. In truth, they're just tuned to a different frequency. There's beauty in that, because the world needs both, the ones who declare and the ones who do, the starters and the sustainers, the ones who make the promises and the ones who keep working without them. And often it's the quiet ones who help the world see that change doesn't need a countdown. They're the ones who translate pressure into patience, declarations into discipline, resolutions into reality. And maybe that's why so many healers, thinkers, and creators feel most aligned when they reject resolutions. It's not that they're avoiding growth, it's that they're trying to honor it more deeply. They turn continuity into progress, steadiness into strength, and silence into transformation. Their lives become extensions of their values, a physical proof of their choices. Every small habit carries intention. Every quiet day has meaning. But even for those who aren't actively changing, the psychology remains the same. Life is the space where we evolve naturally. It's where we grow through the moments we couldn't plan outside. It's where we return to ourselves after being too much of what others expected for too long. And that return, that steady becoming, is one of the most important psychological needs we have. Because no matter how many goals we set, the truth is everyone needs permission to grow at their own pace, permission to start when they're ready, and to change without announcing it. For some, that permission comes from others. For others, it comes from silence, self-trust, and a refusal to perform. There's something sacred about those who choose readiness over ritual. It takes courage to say no to expectations, to step back from the endless need to declare, and to find value in private transformation. Because in that privacy, something extraordinary happens. Authenticity returns. You start to change not to impress, but to evolve. You start to see growth not as a race, but as a rhythm. And suddenly the pressure that once felt crushing begins to feel irrelevant. That's the secret psychology of people who don't make New Year's resolutions. They're not avoiding growth, they're embracing it differently. They're honoring it, feeling it, trusting it at their own rhythm. They're not running from change. They're creating a version of it that feels sustainable again, a version where the soul gets to breathe. And when they do change, when they finally do transform, they bring with them something rare, quiet confidence. They don't announce their growth, they embody stillness like proof. Because once you found change in your own timing, you stop searching for it in countdowns. You stop demanding that dates make you ready. You carry readiness inside you. So if you're someone who doesn't make New Year's resolutions, don't apologize for it. Don't let the world convince you that growth needs a starting gun or that change requires a countdown. You're not missing out. You're tuning in. You're doing the inner work most people announce but never finish. And that work, quiet as it seems, is what shapes everything else. Because when the world feels uncertain, when people are searching for transformation, it's often the quiet ones who've already found it, not in declarations or fresh starts, but in the gentle rhythm of showing up, the consistency of small choices, the honesty of slow progress, the sound of your own inner voice, in the stillness of a life that finally feels like yours. And that's the beauty of it all. Growth isn't just a resolution. It's a reflection of trust earned, not forced, a transformation built out of readiness, patience, and authenticity. It's where you meet yourself again and again until one day you realize you were never really stuck. You were just waiting to be ready. Sometimes people assume that not making resolutions means you've given up on growth, but often it means you've finally stopped forcing it. There's a strange peace that comes when you no longer feel the pressure to reinvent yourself every January, to chase every trend of self-improvement, every framework that promises transformation but delivers burnout. You begin to realize that change doesn't always need a date, that the best growth sometimes happens without ceremony.